Thanks. On these calls, can you say who the Secretary is now liaising with in terms of who his counterpart is with Israel, given that there is a new Israeli defense minister? Does he have any communication yet with Israel Katz? And can you give a bit more details on whether he's had a conversation with the Israeli defense minister since he switched roles?
He has not yet spoken with the new defense minister since he assumed his current role 2 days ago. As you know, Israel Katz was the foreign minister. Before that, he met with the foreign minister on one of our previous trips to Israel. The secretary has conversations with not a fairly wide range, but an extensive range of Israeli counterparts. Of course, he meets with the prime minister when we're in the region, and he talks at times with the minister for strategic affairs. He talked to the previous defense minister. I'm sure he will talk to the current defense minister in the coming days, but he hasn't in the 2 days since he took the job.
Okay, and we're, I think, a little under a week away from this deadline with Secretary Blinken and Secretary Austin's letter to the Israelis. Can you give any updates beyond what you've already said in previous briefings on any things that Israel has ticked off that list ahead of next week? And also, as well, in the letter, could you give an update on the channel that the U.S. is hoping to establish with Israel on civilian harm?
Let me take the second question first with respect to the channel. We have had conversations with them in the past week or so about establishing the first meeting of that channel. The first meeting has not yet taken place, but we're hoping to land that meeting and have it take place in the coming days, in the next week or two. It's something that continues to be a priority for us. When it comes to progress on the other steps that the Secretary laid out in the letter to improve the delivery of humanitarian assistance, we have seen Israel take a number of important steps over the past several weeks, including in just the past few days. They reopened Erez Crossing, as you heard me report before, but they have also informed us that in the coming days, in the next few days, they plan to open an additional new crossing at Kisufim. They have approved additional delivery routes inside Gaza, which is something that is critical because, as you know, the problem has not only been getting humanitarian assistance to the crossings, but then getting it out of the crossings and getting it delivered to the people who need them. So routes such as the Beni Shuhela road in southern Gaza, they have approved expanded use of the Israeli fence road and are currently repairing the coastal road to get that road operational for the delivery of assistance. They are now allowing convoys into areas in the north that have been closed for weeks and that you have heard us say needed to be open to allow humanitarian assistance in. The first convoy today went through Jabalia into Beit Hanun, the first convoy in several weeks. That is something that we have emphasized is critical. The people who have been in those areas had not had access to sufficient food and water, and we have made clear that that needed to change, and we saw the first convoy go to Beit Hanun today. We have seen them take increased efforts to stop looting. They've paved new routes to try and bypass some of the areas where trucks have been looted repeatedly. And we've seen some initial expansion of the Mawasi area, which, as you know, is something the Secretary specifically called for in the letter. So, of course, what's important when you see all of these steps taken is what that means for the results, because it's not just sufficient to open new roads if more humanitarian assistance isn't going through those roads. So what we want to see over the coming days and coming weeks is to see these new routes actually have more humanitarian assistance delivered over them. So we have seen a bit of an uptick in the number of trucks. For example, 2 days ago, we saw 229 enter various crossings and saw 115 of them that were collected, which is a bit of an increase over where we had been. Now, as always, when we give a metric like this, we want to see that number continue to increase. But the most important thing is that we see an increase is that it be sustained. And that is one of the critical metrics that we are looking at.
Sorry, just before
someone
goes. The channel, remind me, when did you give a deadline for that to be set up?
We said we wanted to see the first meeting take place by the end of October. It didn't take place by the end of October, right. But we're working to land the meeting and expect it to happen in the coming days or week or two.
Well, okay, if and when it happens, does that mean that they're essentially off the hook for not meeting the October 31st deadline?
So there's two things about I want to say about that. First of all, when you look at that portion of the letter, it's important to note that that was not tied to the humanitarian assistance piece. That was a separate deadline, right? It was
Right.
I know you didn't say it, just make it clear, because I think a lot of people have kind of conflated the two. What we made clear in the letter is that we wanted to see that meeting take place. We've had a lot of communication with them about the appropriate level
Yes,
at which that meeting should take place, the appropriate way for that meeting to take place. We asked for it virtually, and what I think we're going to land on is an actual in-person meeting, and are working on exactly who attends that meeting and when it happens, and hope to get that finalized in the next few days and be able to announce when it will happen, but we're not there yet.
Well, I get that. I understood, but does that mean that they get, they move from a failing grade to a passing grade if and when it comes up?
That's hold on, that's not the way we're looking at it. We said we want to have the meeting. It didn't happen by when we wanted it to happen. We want to have it happen as soon as possible.
So there's no penalty for it?
We want to see the meeting take place. Ultimately, what we care about is getting a result and is to get that
Right.
channel established so we can start to get
Fair enough.
information
I just
in.
want to know, because I mean, if you're going to say, oh, it's okay to blow through this deadline, but you still have the meeting, but it might not be for another 2 weeks, but then it's okay, and you don't regard it as them ignoring.
We want to see it. We want to see it happen
demand.
as soon as possible. We're continuing to press for it.
All right.